Today on the PIO podcast, I am pleased to introduce Tiffany Muehlbauer. She's a CEO and founder of ARMA Communications. Tiffany, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, Tiffany, I appreciate you reaching out and offering to come on the podcast. You have some interesting stuff that I want to talk about. So first, I want to talk about you and about your background. So how did you end up starting your firm, ARMA Communications?
Absolutely. So, my background is primarily in public relations, marketing, communications. And so, over the years, we kind of ran into the same recurring themes. Organizations tend to wait until the last minute, really when they're in a crisis or under a lot of pressure, before they want to start communicating with the public. And that is pretty much the worst way you can go about it. So, I founded my company, ARMA Communications, in 2011. And our goal really was just to help businesses and public agencies to build their communications infrastructure before it was absolutely necessary to have it, to really be proactive and to go out there and just create a strong message and communications that resonate with people and just put truth out there, really. So our team now supports clients all across the United States, from entrepreneurs to large organizations, government organizations as well. And we do a blend of storytelling, branding, strategy, and just really want clients to be understood and heard. And like I said, for trusted.
And not wait till the last minute, because that's usually by the time. But if you're doing that, you usually run into a lot of problems.
Yes, and it's really hard to create your own message and to get your message out there, because sometimes if the only things coming out are, something that's in crisis mode, it's not exactly the messaging that you want to be.
All right, so I want to talk about something that is something you've written about extensively. And for those that may be unfamiliar, what is the pool theory? First of all, can you explain that?
Yes, absolutely. So the pool theory is, let's say it's a mindset, sort of a framework that we've created for marketing and for strategy. It's really encourages business leaders and brands, companies to fill your pool. So what that means is to build visibility, to build trust, work on that community engagement consistently, not just in those times of crisis. And the reason it is a swimming pool is as follows. So if you think about a swimming pool, when it's very still, there's no movement, there's not a waterfall or anything coming into it, even a pebble or a leaf can cause a ripple effect on the surface of the water. That ripple can be seen for quite a while if you sit there and watch it. If you have a pool that's full of movement, it's full of water, and maybe there's a lifeguard on duty, those are the people that support your brand and cheer you on. There's splashing, there's people with floaties, there's a lot of activity. You could drop a boulder in there and people aren't going to notice that ripple effect anymore. So it's really about creating that movement yourself, filling that pool up with the right resources and making sure that the messages that you want heard are the ones that are ultimately heard in the end.
So I call that the trust bank, and that's the way I've always referred to it. So very similar concept, but except in this case, the trust bank would be the withdrawals that you have to pay because you didn't fill it up ahead of time. So yeah,
Absolutely.
okay, cool. So how has that evolved as you've worked with more public sector clients?
Well, obviously, we've really created this whole concept based on the people that we've worked with. So we've seen a lot of organizations that we work with, they really scramble. And, whenever they need that support or that media attention, they can't get it when they need it. So as we've worked with them, we've, really just created, you know, the encouragement that you've got to build these relationships and create that content and get out there before it's absolutely crucial.
Okay, so in your discussions about the pool theory, and you made a comment about filling your pool before you need to, and making sure that you're doing things to, because then when the big boulder hits the water, it doesn't make much of a splash or a ripple. What does that mean for the public information officer working in local government or in public safety?
So really it's about building your reputation, your organization's reputation in the community and establishing those community connections so that you're doing all of this in quiet times so that whatever, big event might happen, whether it's something bad or good, this can be, taken either way, but that you're not starting from scratch. You're not just trying to scramble around and wondering if anybody's going to hear you or, show up for an event or listen when you say, hey, guess what? There's a hurricane coming and you need to evacuate, right? So for a PIO, it really is about a consistent posting schedule on social media. It doesn't have to be daily. It definitely doesn't have to be multiple times a day, but even just once a week. Establish a little bit of consistency, create an engaging message, start some relationships with the local media so that when you have a message that you need to get out, they're listening and they know who you are. And, just spotlight those department wins. It's a lot about doing good and talking about it, right? So, just like with a trust bank, when you can say, okay, these are the great things that our team is doing, that's a really easy way to just go out there and talk and build those personal relationships with people in the community. So that's, building that reservoir of trust. And then you draw on that when, the pressure hits because it will hit.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, Tiffany, many PIOs, they're reactive, and that's kind of just the way that they came into the field. Some of them didn't have that PR marketing background. Some of them were sworn or in sworn capacity. What practical advice do you have for them to shift from reactive to proactive communication?
Yeah, it's really about starting small and building momentum. This is not about like we're going to do everything on day one, right? So just start with like an hour a week and plan a little bit of proactive content. Like highlight a community program that you really want people to know about that they aren't aware of, or maybe they are, but they just aren't engaging with it, right? Introduce a team member, answer some common public questions. What are those questions that people seem to ask all the time? And how can you answer them maybe in an engaging or amusing way? A lot of agencies like to take this, humorous approach to serious moments. You can use great tools and AI to, create some of these messages if you're like, I'm just not creative enough. There are ways to do this. So just create yourself a simple content calendar, again, just once a week, and then proactive communication. It's not about perfection. It's about being consistent so that people always know where to look for you, and that's what really keeps that motion, that movement happening in your pool.
Okay. So, one of the things that PIOs struggle with sometimes, and this is dealing with the community, parts of the community that are historically disengaged or very skeptical of what the agency does. So, how can PIOs build visibility and trust in those communities?
So the very first thing you have to do there is really listen, right? Before you start broadcasting, know what is it that, their pain points. What are the concerns of the community? What kind of values and culture are you dealing with? And of course, it's going to be okay if you make mistakes. You can show vulnerabilities. It does happen. You don't always hit the mark every time. But it's really about, getting into the community, spending some time with them and showing up with relatively little or no agenda to figure out what is it that is going to resonate with them so that you can build that trust and reach them when you need to reach them. It's a longer game, obviously, but every step matters in those cases.
Right, right. All right. So, here's a twist here. Public sector agencies, they really struggle sometimes. Resources or budget are usually constraints for them. And you talk about that role of consistent engagement. So, what does that look like for somebody that might be on a budget restrictive practice or stance?
Absolutely. So again, this is not about like a volume game. This is about creating a system that works for you and you can be consistent at. So when you've got purpose content piece already, you can repurpose all of those things. So say you'd write a press release and then you can turn that into a social post. So it can be, a quick snippet that's in the social post with some sort of graphic, then create a short video out of it. Have somebody stand up and just talk about what it says in that press release. Keep it 30 seconds, 60 seconds if you can, so that it's, concise and to the point. And then, you can roll out all of these various things, put that in your newsletter or your emails that you have going out. So make sure that you can hit it on all of the different points. You're not recreating the wheel, you're just reutilizing the same content over and over. And then you can really build a rhythm off of those types of pieces of content, right? So if you do a team spotlight once a month, if you go behind the scenes once a month, if you add a tip or a resource, something about an FAQ. Again, we're not talking about posting every day because, you have other things going on. It's enough to stay relevant and present. That's like really where the balance is. So, maybe it's not a weekly newsletter that you're sending out. It's just once a month. And that's okay because people know it's going to be coming. Try to make it around the same time every week or every month, just so that people look for it and expect it and know what's coming.
Tiffany just brought something up that I wanted to ask about. You talked about recording a short video on your reproducing your press release via short video. A lot of agencies, I've seen this over and over again. And one of my home agency, they have a new person in their position. They just posted on their Facebook page just a copy of their printed press release.
Kind of tough to read, right?
Exactly. Very hard to read. So so your thought is go ahead and read the press or do the press release in a shorter format and then release out the actual press release to the media and with a link or whatever back to
Absolutely.
your website or whatever. You think that's a more effective way, right?
Absolutely, sure. I mean, yes, you want people to understand like what the full breadth of the press release is, but it's important to just break it down for people in different ways. We also have to remember that people digest information in different formats, right? Some people are going to resonate better with video, some people like to read it better, some people aren't going to actually be looking or listening to what you're saying. So make sure you include closed captions on there because, majority of people actually aren't listening to what's being said on the videos. They're just kind of like going with the flow and reading it in the end. So give people multiple ways to absorb the information that you want them to be absorbing so that it reaches them. Because, just like you said, putting a static image of a press release on social media, that's not going to get it, right? Social media is meant to be social. People engage with people. They want to know what's going on with humans in the background and hear people talking to them. So that's really going to resonate better than just, and especially if it's something that you really want people to hear, break it down for them visually and verbally so that they are going to actually listen to it and they don't have to go and try to figure out how to zoom in on their screen or anything else.
I really like that idea. I mean, I think that would resonate with a lot more people if you just went and did your press release, even if it was a modified version to keep it into that 1 minute, 45-second time frame. Nobody wants to go and read a one-page whole press release with the boilerplate information in it. Even the media doesn't want to read that stuff. So giving them a short video snippet that maybe they can take directly off of and they're getting it verbatim. So it's not like they're going to misquote you.
Yes,
So
and they
yeah,
can
that's
still
I
go and
actually
grab that information off the press release whenever they need those, meaty details to get it right.
right, right. No, I really like that idea. Thank you. That's a great suggestion. I'm actually running it. I'm heading out on Wednesday to teach a class in Louisville, and I'll be talking about that when I'm down there. I
Awesome.
like that. All right, so can you share any real world examples of where a public agency benefited from applying the principles of the pool theory? Maybe a case where preparation paid off in a crisis.
Yeah, sure. So we've lived in several communities where police, fire, EMS, like other public services, do a really great job of working collaboratively in not only like with the community, but with actual agencies, which is really amazing. So they just established great lines of communication, social media, in person. They, did a lot of touch a truck events and constant community events. We worked with a fire department in South Florida that actually created trading cards, and this was like 10 years ago before everybody started to seem to be doing this. To build that personal relationship, you invite people into your firehouse and let people know that it's okay to come visit the police officers, and it's a place where they can be appreciated and respected. Places like Southwest Florida, that works really to their benefit because when you have a crisis like a hurricane on the way, if people don't listen to you, lives can be lost. And that is the absolute last thing that anybody wants. So I've seen it time and time again how in South Florida, they really do a great job of not only just building up that community, but also expressing to everybody outside that you don't mess with us. We are a community that cares about our people, and even though we might be asking people to evacuate, if you come in here and try to take advantage of our community, we are going to fight back. So I've really appreciated a lot of those communications that have come out with some of the sheriff's office and things of that nature that really, drive home like we absolutely 100% support our community and we are not going to let you mess with us. So while they have a playful and fun side with their community, they are not the same way with bad guys. And of course, that is the way you want them to be when, they're there to protect you and serve you and create law and order in times that feel like you might never have anything normal again. If you've ever been through a hurricane, you know how stressful those moments can be. So just that little piece of reassurance in an otherwise crazy time goes a long way.
Yeah, no, I've never been through a hurricane, thank God. I mean, God bless people that live in those areas where the potential, I don't know if I could do it. Although we have tornadoes where I'm at all the time, and at any given time, you could lose your whole house in a tornado, and you wouldn't even know what's going to happen
You
until it
don't
hits.
even
So,
see it coming. I know.
yeah,
Far
at
worse.
least with the hurricane, you've got some notice a little bit there. All right, so let's talk about Tiffany. You talk about storytelling as a theme that you often return to. So, what makes a public sector story, resonate with the public, and how can PIOs get better at crafting those stories?
So to me, it's really about that relatability and building authenticity, right? So the public wants to see who's behind the uniform, who are the people that are, doing these stories. So tell the story of a dispatcher who stayed calm during, the worst moments in this person's life, because typically when you're calling dispatch, it is the most traumatic and worst moment of your life happening. Talk about the firefighter who went and, mentored local youth, or, we see a lot of stories about, ducklings were just saved a couple of weeks ago in my community, and, the kitties in the trees and things like that, right? It might seem sappy to some people, but it makes these people human, right? It shows that they care about the general public, they care about animals, they care about everybody. They're not just people in uniforms, fighting fires or fighting bad guys, right? So to get a little better, listen to your team and ask your frontline workers what they're proud of and turn those stories into narratives. Photos are helpful, quotes are amazing. It doesn't have to be polished, but when the team is getting an award, when they've done something that's really, newsworthy to talk about, when they're being recognized by their peers in your agency, those are great stories to be talking about on your social media as well.
Yeah, I go back to a story that I got. I was off on a Saturday, and I got a phone call from one of my supervisors, fellow supervisors, and he goes, "I've got a story for you. It's gold." I had a officer go respond to a homeless person that had a issue with their shoe, and they had ripped the bottom of the shoe off. Freezing cold out in the middle of winter. The officer went and gave him his work boots, shoes, right there. One of the other officers was smart enough to pull out their cell phone and videotape this. And then they proceeded to bring the guy to a shelter. They got him food and all kinds of stuff. And then, afterwards, the officer went home, got an old pair of boots, put those on for work. No big deal, right? Well, that was great. I got it. That story went viral. It got on national news.
Nice.
And about a week later, when it was on national news and it was all promoted, we get called in because the officer gave away department equipment.
Yeah, I had a feeling you were going to go somewhere like that.
Yeah, and I said to the person that brought this up, is I said, "Do you really want to go there with an officer doing a good deed, and you want to make it you want to make this an issue, and we'll have Acorn and everybody else are outside our building, and it could be complete negative, and right now we're on a positive. Let's not wreck this." And luckily, they backed down from it. They just told the officer, "Don't do that again." But it was just one of those things where, like, common sense just does not sometimes work for elected officials.
Well, they have their rules, and the government sometimes does some funny things. But yeah, I mean, $150 pair of boots. Let's say they were 200. I know they were really nice, like 511s and stuff.
Yeah,
That would have been a catastrophic move if they had said, "Hey, no, this was the wrong move, and we're gonna, fine you or penalize you in some other way." Right? That would
right,
not
right. That would not have been
likely
good.
land well with the community as a whole or the greater nation. Right?
Right, right. Tiffany, what metrics or indicators should PIOs look at to know that their pool is being filled? And that is that their visibility or trust are actually growing, right?
Yes, absolutely. So start with engagements, not just like your reach, but, comments, shares, replies. See that people are paying attention and they are interacting with you, right? Then are community members tagging your page? Are they asking questions? Do they use your info in their own posts, right? That's a sign that they trust you and you have really created a bond there. And then make sure that you track your media mentions, and especially if it's earned media. Excuse me. So when reporters reach out to you, it means they know that you are a credible source. So you want to make sure you've established those relationships already. And this is really just all signs that, you're deepening that pool and making that movement work.
Awesome. Yeah, that's helpful. I know people always used to look at engagement and think, "Oh, it's been seen by 9,000 people, but did anybody say anything about it?" That's the one that really matters.
It is, right? Are people sharing it again? Are they
Yeah,
commenting and responding? I mean, sometimes the comments are going to be silly or irrelevant, but when people are actually asking questions, also, are you engaging with them, especially when they're important questions that should be answered, right? Don't just put a post up there and then walk away and forget that it existed. Because if it was something that was, breaking news, sensitive news, things of that nature, people are likely to have fun. So make sure you address them afterwards as well.
right. Stephanie, what are some common mistakes or missed opportunities that you've seen public communicators make when it comes to long-term visibility and reputation building?
So I'd say one big mistake is only communicating during emergencies or special events. This really trains your audience to only listen when something is wrong. And you don't really want to build up that a cadence with people, because you want them to be listening all the time, because you want them to hear the good and the bad and listen when it matters, whenever you're talking. So another is speaking like bureaucracy, right? So we were talking before. Um, you know, think about what the consequences are, but also use plain language and be personable. These are just human beings. They, again, social media, especially, it is social, so it's not meant to be overly serious all the time. And I guess the last thing I would say is that I think PIOs often underestimate the power of showing your human side. So, your team, your challenges, wins, your equipment, people trust people, not institutions. So, if you can make it human, they will always respond back.
I like that. That's the one thing that is so cops they don't want to show the human side. They don't want to show anything. They want that rough exterior, and the reality of it is more gets done when you show that human side. More people actually begin to like the officers when they see the human side, the compassion and so on.
Yes, I think that there's more examples that show that those relationships are more beneficial versus less beneficial when people are actually building those relationships in the community.
Yep. If any PIO is listening today and wants to apply the pool theory starting next week, what are three simple things that they can do right away to start building visibility before their next crisis?
Well, the first step is to go and look at your channels, look at your social media and your website and things like that. What's outdated? What information is no longer relevant? Is there information that's missing? Are you missing from certain places? And just, start with those small updates to bring some clarity and better, truth and understanding to what you have out there. Then start to create a rhythm of content, right? So plan, let's say, 3 posts for the next month. Let it be a spotlight, a behind the scenes, and some sort of helpful tip, just like I've been talking about this whole time. And just figure out when you're going to create those and put those on your content calendar. That's 3 weeks of posts right there. So introduce a face to the public as well. It can be a short profile about a team member, it could be about the PIO themselves and their role in the organization, it could be a quote from somebody from the team. Maybe it's a quote that you're pulling from a press release or other media that was just put out. Let it build that connection, add credibility, and just really solidify the authority of your agency and your team in the community and what they do.
Awesome. You brought up something about your website. Go through your website, make sure it's updated and stuff. So frequently I see websites that have holding cards for images or come back soon, and it's been 6 years, 7 years before anything's even up there. Or everything is so outdated where, like, I saw a thing the other day, the on one of the agencies that I've been trying to get them to get update some of their stuff. Their annual report was from the last one that they put out was 7 years ago. So why is it? I know they've done them because I've seen them, but why are the links not out there? So they're just making it harder for the public to find stuff. And then also the public looks at it and goes, well, they don't really care.
Yes, yes. It makes it looks like your agency is no longer active, right? And that's obviously not the case. So, um, you know, It happens with businesses of all kinds, but regularly have somebody poke around on your website. Send submissions on any forms that you have on your websites also, because sometimes they do break over time. And if you're wondering why no one's reaching out to you, that might be why.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I can't remember the last time I checked any. Well, I'm not with any agencies right now, but I don't remember if I ever checked any of those. That's an interesting point. So thanks for bringing that up. That's awesome. Tiffany, is there a question I should have asked? And if so, how would you have answered?
Uh,
That says it all.
I
That's
don't think
okay.
so.
That's all right. All right, let's lighten this up. Let's go to some rapid fire questions.
All right.
Texting or talking?
Talking, especially if I can build a strategy.
Awesome. Movies or books?
Books, but I do love a good documentary.
Coffee, tea, or energy drink?
Iced coffee in the morning and my protein shake.
Adult drink of choice?
Old fashioned with Woodford.
Nice. Cats or dogs?
Dogs, especially big ones. I have a Great Dane. Used to have a Newfie.
You have a Great Dane in Florida? Oh my goodness.
I'm actually in Texas, but yes, I have a Great Dane in
Oh,
Texas.
okay.
I have a
What's your
Newfie in
favorite
Florida.
go? Oh, that's all right. What's your favorite go-to karaoke song?
Don't Stop Believin'. It's a classic. Everybody can join in.
I think I have sung that one at karaoke night at the NAOA conference once. If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
Time travel. That way I can show people that, how they could have reacted for the pool theory.
Okay. If you could instantly become an expert in one thing, what would that be?
Video editing. It's probably the most powerful storytelling tool out there today.
Yeah, it's always a learning in progress. I've always got one of those things where, okay, if I can't figure it out, YouTube it. You'll find out.
For sure. Yes. Thank goodness for YouTube.
Yep. Ask permission or beg for forgiveness.
Ask permission with a really convincing pitch.
What place do you most want to travel to?
New Zealand, I guess. It seems to be absolutely stunning, amazing storytelling. I might never leave though. So
I have a family member that's going there for a wedding. I can't believe it. Yeah, that would be an awesome place to go.
right.
What's your favorite way to relax after a long day?
I take a little nice walk with my family and our dog, and shut offline completely.
Awesome. Who would you choose to have coffee with? Any historical figure, living or dead?
I think it would be fascinating to have coffee with Eleanor Roosevelt. She understood the power of public presence long before social media existed.
Yeah. Yeah, she did. Absolutely. Yeah. All right. So, final thoughts, Tiffany. What key points would you like the listeners to take from our interview today?
Start as early as you can. Be consistent. And remember, communication is not just about information, it's about trust. Do good and talk about it. So if you filled your pool before you need it and keep things in motion, you'll never find yourself scrambling when the pressure is on.
Awesome. As we wrap this up, is there a piece of wisdom or a motto that you live?
Well, visibility is value. So if people don't know what you're doing, they can't support you.
How can people best reach out to you if they want to connect or follow up?
Absolutely. I would love to connect with people. I'm on LinkedIn under Tiffany Muehlbauer, or you can visit my website, thepooltheory.com. And we actually have a special freebie for PIO podcast listeners. So www.thepooltheory.com/PIO podcast. And you'll receive a
Awesome.
free
I did not
starter kit.
realize my camera shut off. Holy cow. Sorry about that. Very cool. I appreciate you doing that for our listeners. That's awesome. Tiffany, you talk about video, and video is one of those things that I think everybody they want to do, but they struggle to do it simply because it might be too hard. But there's a lot of tools and software out there that make things so much easier. What are your thoughts about utilizing some of those newer things instead of just like Premiere Pro, which can be extremely difficult to use?
Oh, yeah. Yes. I mean, and even Adobe has its own versions of, quicker, faster editing software. It's amazing what you can do purely in your phone right now. So whether you have an iPhone or an Android, they have amazing, resources just purely in that. All of the apps, if you're on Insta, Facebook, any of those types of things, Meta has a lot of tools, meanwhile, that make it really easy and fun to create content. So it's really just about giving it a try. And, they're not all going to be perfect the first time around, right? It's certainly easier for some of the younger generation, kids in their 20s and whatever are definitely more adept at it than, those of us in our 40s. But it's really about, just getting comfortable with what's out there and not being scared to, just sit down and talk to a camera, right? It's not going to bite you. And it's generally very friendly anyway, right? So you'd be surprised how well people will respond when you just put yourself out there. And, again, it's about building that personality and that trust. People respond to people. I mean, now we're going on a trend where people will create AI versions of themselves, most likely. You won't have to be so uncomfortable in front of a camera, but there's still always going to be more authenticity with real people.
Right, absolutely. Tiffany, I didn't ask you this before, but it just popped in my mind again, so I'm going to throw another question out at you. Software for posting, what's your thoughts about that? Using like Social News Desk or Hootsuite or one of these other platforms to post?
I think it depends on how much content you're trying to push out at once, right? If you are trying to hit a lot of different platforms, something like Hootsuite or, HubSpot or Sprout Social, some of these platforms can make it very easy and fast to churn out the same content that you're, recreating onto various platforms. And those are great, but they can be somewhat cost prohibitive. So it really depends on the size of your agency. If you are just doing it yourself or it's a very small team in general, by all means, just use the native tools. From X to Meta, you can program and schedule out all of your content into the future. So there's very little reason to not be utilizing their in-house tools because they've created them for you and they want you to use them, right? So you don't have to use expensive tools if you don't have those resources available. Just use what
Plus,
you've got.
there is a little bit of throttling back when they get it through an API as opposed to the native app. So they want that an interaction coming from within, not from without outside.
Yes, yes. And the customization is usually much higher on the native apps. So, poke around in them, learn. There's a lot of people out there teaching you stuff. Again, YouTube is your friend. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Tiffany, thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Robert. It's been a lot of fun.